So there's been a lot of talk about personal work and discovering ourselves and moving forward with ourselves. And I've been thinking a lot lately about how that's related to my body, and specifically being a white-skinned white citizen in this country. And how having that little passport, that little piece of paper within some plastic, leather, whatever they make it out of, is so important in this country. And I want to tell you a story. I believe this was in North Carolina, where a couple was pulled over for some sort of traffic violation. And the police officer who approached the car had them both get out of the car, and at some point started sexually assaulting the woman. And these were both undocumented Latino persons in North Carolina. So the male partner was in this position of, what do I do? Who do I talk to when it's an authority figure? You know, he ended up calling the police to report this sexual violation, and both of them are now sitting in detention, waiting for deportation. They're pressing charges. They're doing a court suit because this is kind of a particular kind of case, and it got some publicity. But this kind of thing happens all over. And I feel especially strongly about it for women and for mothers who can't feel safe reporting domestic abuse, who can't feel safe reporting work violations and working conditions, who get separated from their children. There's a lot of talk now about comprehensive immigration reform, and family reunification comes up because that's a big issue. There are a lot of kids sitting in detention, which actually means jail, because private jails provide these services to the state instead of public facilities, and actually charge the state a huge amount of money. So we've got families basically sitting in jail. For what? For being here and trying to earn a living because of big issues that have made their home place unlivable. So walking around as a citizen, traveling, getting annoyed at airports but not being stopped and frisked, you know. I can be courteous to police officers and not really worry about them asking me about my papers. It's been on my mind a lot because, you know, I was raised at least very positively and take advantage of what comes your way. You know, the world is your oyster, basically. You know, think about other people, but like just go for it. And so much of that rests on this foundation of being a legitimate, acceptable, wanted person in the society. So I really, really want to push the envelope on how we think about what immigration is, what it means for immigrants to try to make a living in this country, what it means that we're taught that they're terrorists and that we have to think about them through the Department of Homeland Security, not through the Department of Immigration and Customs anymore. Now it's Homeland Security. What it means that we're looking at how to get the best guest worker, but not guest family and community building type of visa. You know, we're just looking at the guest worker. But there's hope. There's hope, even though these structures that are criminalizing immigrants and these huge structures of deportation, detention, which is incredibly expensive. I mean, we talk about the importance of these people getting out of here, but it's incredibly expensive to do that. anyway, there's hope. Because it's really, there's a huge amount of grassroots momentum. It really is the civil rights movement of today. And there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of exciting things. It happens slowly, it's frustrating. But one example that is exciting for me is domestic workers. So, you know, there's a huge industry of immigrant women coming and living in homes and taking care of the home and taking care of the kids so they grow up to be productive members of a society, you know. So there's a huge number of immigrant women in this country working as domestic workers, and they've started organizing recently. You know, they're very isolated. There's uncountable cases of women being deported if they start talking about what they don't like about that job. But in New York, they started organizing the National Domestic Workers Association, and they got a bill that basically has some work protection provisions, some overtime, some weekends, some vacations. So there's glimmers of hope, but there's also some real hard questions we need to ask ourselves and keep pushing everyone else to ask. Thank you.